Good morning. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Carol Rowan, and I use she, her pronouns. I have the honor of being your worship associate this morning, and please be sure your cell phones are silenced if you haven't done that already. We welcome everyone here and online to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke, with a special welcome to those who are joining us for the first time. We hope you stay after the service to join us in the fellowship hall for the coffee hour. Now, if you turn around and wave at the cameras to connect with the people who are at home. For those of you who are online, and if you want to share your joys and concerns during the Lifelines portion of the service, please do so in the next 15 minutes. Our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that our church resides on the traditional lands of the Tutelo and Monacan nations and was later farmed and developed through slave labor. We recognize and respect the ongoing connection to this land by generations of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. May our gratitude and fellowship here echo and honor that rich history. Our minister is Reverend Kirk Ballin, our minister emeritus, and his sermon today is entitled Transcendentalism When the Floodgates Opened. I don't know what that means either, so we'll find out. Reverend Walter LaFleur has been on medical leave. I know we were all pleased that he and Yvette came to the church picnic last week. I think many of us were very pleased to see him. But let's take a minute to send him some good thoughts. Now, please join me in reciting our words of welcome. Whoever you are, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you're filled with sadness or overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself, or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here. And our covenant, we commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world. And next today, we have a report from the new minister search committee.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Gordon Malcheski. I'm your president-elect of your board. I use the pronouns he, him. So this morning, I'd like to share some good news with you regarding our new minister search process. I know we typically don't like to make a lot of announcements prior to service, but I think this is great news and it's very important for the congregation. So for the past 4 months, the search committee has been hard at work searching for a new minister to replace Rev. Walter, whose employment actually ended May 15th. As an aside, I did have dinner with Rev. Walter and Yvette on Friday. They both seem to be doing reasonably well. We had a nice conversation and fairly good spirits. So when Rev. Walter was diagnosed with a serious illness, the board, under the direction of Catherine, reached out to the Unitarian Universalist Association for some guidance. We learned that there were 4 types of ministerial positions for us to consider. So they were interim minister, that's a hire by the board. Interim ministers cannot be called to settled ministry. So once again, that's interim, and that is a board hire. The reason I'm emphasizing that is because there may be some questions as to why the congregation did not vote as a whole to select a new minister, and it's because there are actually different types of ministers. The next one is a developmental minister, and this is what Rev Walter actually was. Another board hire. The term is typically 4 to 7 years. Contract minister is typically for a year, but it can be more than that. But that one can be called to settled ministry, and that's when the congregation would actually vote. So that one gives us the most flexibility. And finally, settled ministry, that's the one where the congregation votes. So I just wanted you to be clear on that, because I have had some questions regarding what is this contract ministry all about. So once again, we decided to go with a board hire, and the reason for that was based on the recommendations from the Unitarian Universalist Association. Based on the fact that Rev Walter's medical condition came up suddenly, we didn't have a lot of time to plan, and a settled ministry search is very involved. It takes an entire year to do that kind of a search, so we kind of ruled out the settled ministry search. So a new ministry, a search committee was formed with members Cindy Lawler, Linda Woods, Henry Woodward, and myself. Catherine advised the committee. Erica Joyner and Carl Reed worked extensively with me to come up with a contract and compensation. And we were very excited because we actually implemented a new way to reimburse employees for healthcare expenses. In the past, we just offered a bonus. Now we're doing a little bit more formalized and probably more legal process. So that was kind of important, with the provision of eventually working towards providing some additional assistance for our staff ministers in addition, our staff members rather, in addition to our minister. And all of this was done in coordination with the transitions administrator at UUA, along with the compensation team. So we really worked hard to get this right, to come up with a good package. So in preparation for posting our opening for minister, we did update our website, because that's one of the first things a new minister would look for when they're considering a congregation. So Cindy, I want to thank you for your efforts on that. Cindy kind of spearheaded that, and we got the website up to date. We also surveyed you, our members, as to what you thought was the role for a new minister. We got an exceptional, astounding 114 responses. So I was very, very pleased with that, and that is to your credit. It shows you how much you care about this congregation and the ministry. If you haven't seen the results, they were posted online. I do have some printed summaries in the fellowship hall on the table. You can stop by and pick one up, or we can talk if you have any questions. So we did receive a total of 3 applicants, although 2 of them did submit their applications late in the search process. So we interviewed candidates, we talked to ministers' references, we watched YouTube videos of sermons, and did a formal background check. Once we decided on a minister, we worked closely with UUA compensation team to come up with a contract. And once again, extra thanks to Henry, who worked very hard, multiple iterations of the contract, along with Erica and Carl to come up with that compensation plan. Our new minister's contract now is for 2 years, with a possibility of an additional or 3rd year. At that time, we do have the option to call the minister to settled ministry, and that's where you would have a vote in the selection process. This does give us kind of a trial period with the new minister, so rather than going through that long search process, we actually have the minister that we can assess during that 2 or 3 year period. She will start August 1st, so it's coming up quick. So we, like I said, there was a lot of effort. Once again, I do have to, once again, thank that search committee. It was a lot of work, I have to be honest with you, a lot of work, a lot of dedication, but it was a great team effort, and I really appreciate everyone's help. So let's give a round of applause to the search committee members. All right, we're almost done here. So August 1st is the start date. She will not be in the pulpit the first 2 weeks so she can get acclimated. So our new minister grew up in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C. She attended her first UU service in 2012. Was ordained in 2021. So she's relatively new to the ministry. Lots of real life, real world experience, which we think is going to be very appropriate. She is currently serving as minister of the York, PA, Unitarian Universalist Association. And She states in her biography, keys to my identity, both ministerial and just in life generally, are sharing stories and growing relationships. These are the grounds of my being and the things I most love to do. Ministry keeps me deeply connected to the things I love most, and it's honestly still a little shocking to me some days when I wake up and realize I get to do this work every day. I now have the distinct pleasure of giving you a virtual introduction to our new minister, the Reverend Jen Raffensperger. We will now play a video greeting from her.
Hello, good morning, Unitarian Universalist, Church of Roanoke. I'm the Reverend Jen Raffensperger. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm so excited to be here with you virtually this morning when your board and search committee are sharing with you the news that I will be joining you this August as your minister. I am so excited to be moving to Roanoke, to be joining you all. I know you've done hard work, good work with Reverend Walter. I know that you are mourning the transition that needed to happen there. And I know that Reverend Kirk has stepped in as emeritus, helped you, guided. Roanoke is a strong church. I'm excited to come join you, to partner with you in our shared ministry, to learn about you and your mean the most to you. I'm excited for our shared ministry, and I look forward to meeting you all this August. Thank you.
Sorry, Lynn, that was so fast. I'm sorry. We are going to rise and sing our opening hymn for the beauty of the earth, which is number 21. And the words are in your hymnal, and they're going to be on the screen, so you can choose your method of reading. And we're going to do verses 1 through 3. And I'm glad I see many choir members in the congregation today, because this is rather high for me. Count on you, Martha. For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Our opening words today are from Margaret Fuller, entitled A New Manifestation, and they are in our hymnal as number 575. A new manifestation is at hand, a new hour is come, when man and woman may regard one another as brother and sister, able both to appreciate and to prophesy to one another. A new manifestation is at hand, a new hour is come, What woman needs is not as a woman to act or rule, but as a nature to grow, as an intelligence to discern, as a soul to live freely and unimpeded, to unfold such powers as were given her. A new manifestation is at hand, a new hour is come. Man does not have his fair share either. His energies are repressed and distorted by the interposition of artificial obstacles. A new manifestation is at hand, a new hour is come. We would have every arbitrary barrier thrown down. We would have every path laid open to woman as freely as to man. Were this done, we believe, a divine energy would pervade nature to a degree unknown in the history of former ages. A new manifestation is at hand, a new hour is come.
We are lighting our chalice today in honor of our bridging children this morning, Azalea Lafan and Milan Lafan. We are here to honor them with the bridging ceremony this morning, and very grateful that you are here this morning.
May the light you now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of light.
As I do every Sunday, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jessie McEwen. I am the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here, and I use they, them pronouns. And today we have our first of two very special annual services. Today we celebrate and honor two very special people, Azalea and Malin Lafon, who are bridging. That's moving through various ages of life. At this time, I'd like to invite them and their family forward. And if you will, stand right here in front of the altar. At our child naming and dedication services, we welcome those at the beginning of childhood into our church community by giving them roses with tightly closed buds on stems from which the thorns have been removed. The buds are symbols of a life just beginning, whose unfolding we, just as they, will experience petal by petal. The thornless stems are vivid images of our intent to protect our children and the children of our church family from all that could be hurtful, to smooth their paths as lives unfold. As they move into the age of reason, they begin elementary school or turn 7 years old. Azalea, as you enter the age of reason, please receive from Bonnie this rose that is just beginning to open. You have a future that will bloom and grow just like this rose. We have removed the thorns to symbolize our protection of you. We don't want to see you injured as you grow. We also offer you the gift of your own name tag, which has a stand-in name tag today. One of the first things you learned was how to spell your own name. Now we offer you the opportunity to take responsibility for that name and to take your place among this congregation. Your family will also present you with the gift of a book that provokes deeper thinking, and they have chosen for you the very aptly named Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. Malin, you have gone through the age of reason and are entering the age of understanding. Your rose is open. Your light is shining brightly as you enter middle school. However, we have still removed the thorns from your stem. We hope to continue protecting you and teaching you how to deal with life's thorns as you seek understanding. In addition to entering middle school, you are also bridging from the group that we call the Chalice Children to the next generation youth group. Here to welcome you into that group are Randall and Kevin. Y'all can just give them a handshake, carry them out of the room, do whatever you got to do. Your family will also present you with the gift of a book. This book is on spirituality and religion, and they have chosen the Religions book. In your orders of service this morning, we have a responsive reading. Please affirm your support of these children by stating "we will" after the following. Will you, as their elders, promise to offer wisdom and guidance when asked, while allowing space for Asalia and Malin to learn on their own? We will. Will you listen when they speak and seek to understand what they teach you? We will. Will you provide care for scraped knees, broken hearts, and all of the bumps that these two may encounter on their paths? We will. And will you pledge to value these children and their education, both in the world and in our UU faith as they grow? At this time, we invite Asalia and Malin to light a candle from our chalice and place it in the sand at the altar to remind us of the life, enthusiasm, and vitality you have shared with us here at UUCR, and to remind us to always provide a beacon of hope as you continue your journey to adulthood. And before these two and all of the young people head out those doors, I'd like to invite Reverend Kirk to offer a blessing for the two who have just bridged.
All come in, you guys, everybody, let's just sort of put our hands together here. Come on down here. You know what a journey is, right? A journey is like a trip, right? Well, you guys are beginning a journey that you can't even imagine now, but just know that there are friends and those who love you, especially your parents, who are going to be with you on this journey. And like was said in the words earlier, the idea that there are going to be bumps and bruises along the way, but there's also going to be lots of roses to make you happy and to share with others. So we ask that you keep us in mind and know that we're always here for you. It's a real pleasure to be a part of this in your life, and I hope you'll find a home here for as long as you can and are able to be here. So thank you for being here with us. Thank you.
And young folks who choose to leave the service with us, we will meet you right outside those two doors. Thank you.
Our reading today is a responsive reading written by Ralph Waldo Emerson entitled The Oversoul. And if you would turn to number 531 in your hymnal to join me in this reading. Reverend Kirk reminded me that yesterday was Emerson's 221st birthday. And he also reminded me that he's still with us. Okay. Let us learn the revelation of all nature and thought, that the highest dwells within us, that the sources of nature are in our own minds.
As there is no screen or ceiling between our heads and the infinite heavens, so there is no bar or wall in the soul where we, the effect, cease, and God, the cause, begins.
I am constrained every moment to acknowledge a higher origin for events than the will I call mine.
There is deep power in which we exist and whose beatitude is accessible to us.
every moment when the individual feels invaded by it is memorable.
It comes to the lowly and simple. It comes to whosoever will put off what is foreign and proud. It comes as insight. It comes as serenity and grandeur.
The soul's health consists in the fullness of its reception.
Forever and ever, the influx of this better and more universal self is new and unsearchable.
Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one.
When it breaks through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affections, it is love. Good morning, everyone. Let's take just a moment, if we would, to quiet our hearts and our minds and just be aware of our breathing, reflecting upon our openness to the spirit of our gathering together. Many of you know that I've been gone for a week and a half or so on a sort of a vacation that we had previously planned, and got back the beginning of this past week, and it was in Europe, so the jet lag certainly kicked in when I got home. So I was intentionally not planning to write a sermon from scratch. So this morning, you get something from my archives. But I hope it's something that you find of interest, and that because I think it is of great value in understanding both Unitarian Universalism, but also a sense of our own search for truth and meaning in our religious journeys. And it was in part to honor Ralph Waldo Emerson's 221st birthday yesterday. We had a couple of readings already, but I want to share two short ones with you as well. William Blake's from his poem, Auguries of Innocence, and this is something that I think many of us are familiar with. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. And then the next short reading comes from the Reverend Theodore Parker, whom I'll speak a little bit about shortly. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. I'm sure many of you have at least heard of transcendentalism, but many of us may also not really have an idea of what it is. And very likely most of us don't realize that if it were not for transcendentalism, we wouldn't be gathered here in this room today, probably. Well, my intention this morning is to put in a relatively simplistic but meaningful perspective what transcendentalism is and how it impacted on Unitarianism and ultimately on Unitarian Universalism in a profound and transformative way. And if initially I sound a bit like I am reading from Wikipedia, I am. But Wikipedia citations tend to be succinct and clear. Transcendentalism is any philosophy based on the doctrine that the principles of reality are to be discovered
by the study of processes of thought or a philosophy emphasizing the intuitive and spiritual above simply the empirical. The words of William Blake's poem, "To see the world in a grain of sand, a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, eternity in an hour," reflect this understanding of transcendentalism. Transcendentalists tend to believe that society and its institutions, particularly organized religion and political parties, corrupt the purity of the individual. They have faith that people are at their best when they are truly, quote, self-reliant and independent. It is only from such real individuals that true community can form. Even with this necessary individuality, transcendentalists also believe that all people are outlets for what Ralph Waldo Emerson called the oversoul, because the oversoul is one. This unites all people as one being. Emerson alludes to this concept as that there is one man present to all particular men only partially or through one faculty, and that you must take this whole society to find the whole man. Such an idea is in harmony with transcendentalist individualism, as each person is empowered to behold within him or herself a piece of the divine, of the oversoul. Emerson, an early Unitarian minister of the mid-1800s, quote, philosophically considered the universe is composed of nature and the soul. Emerson is one of several figures who, quote, took a more pantheist or pandeist approach by rejecting views of God as separate from the world. In this, his then radical Divinity School address, and that's Harvard Divinity, he delivered it at Harvard Divinity School graduation in 1838. Emerson discounted biblical miracles and proclaimed that while Jesus was a great man, he was not God. Historical Christianity, he said, had turned Jesus into, quote, a demigod, as the Orientals or the Greeks would describe Osiris or Apollo. His comments outraged the establishment and the general Protestant community. He was denounced as an atheist and a poisoner of young men's minds, quote. Despite the roar of critics, though, he made no reply, leaving others, as we shall see, to put forward a defense. He was not invited back to speak at Harvard for another 30 years. Margaret Fuller, also a Unitarian of the same period, was an American journalist, critic, and women's rights advocate associated with the American Transcendentalist movement. She was the first full-time American female book reviewer in journalism. Her book, Woman in the 19th Century, is considered the first major feminist work in the United States. In October 1839, Emerson was seeking an editor for his transcendentalist journal, The Dial, and after several declined the position, he offered it to Fuller, referring to her as my, quote, vivacious friend. Emerson had met Fuller in Cambridge in 1835. Of that meeting, he admitted, she made me laugh more than I liked. In 1839, Fuller accepted Emerson's offer to edit The Dial and began work in the first week of 1840. She edited the journal from 1840 to 1842. Because of her role, she was soon recognized as one of the most important figures of the Transcendentalist movement. Theodore Parker was also a Unitarian minister in Boston in the 1830s. In 1837, Parker had begun attending meetings of the group later known as the Transcendental Club, of which Emerson and Fuller were also members. He was deeply affected by Emerson's divinity address in 1838. And in 1841, as a guest minister in the South Church in Boston, Parker laid bare his beliefs in a sermon titled A Discourse on the Transient and Permanent in Christianity. In that sermon, Parker espoused his belief that the traditions of historic Christianity did not reflect the truth. In so doing, he made an open break with Orthodox theology, including Unitarian theology. He instead argued for a type of Christian belief and worship in which the essence of Jesus' teachings remained permanent, but the words, traditions, and other forms of their conveyance did not. He stressed the immediacy of God and saw the church as a communion, looking upon Christ as the supreme expression of God. Ultimately, though, he rejected all miracles and revelation and saw the Bible as full of contradictions and mistakes. He retained his faith in God, but suggested that people experience God intuitively and personally, and that they should center their religious beliefs on individual experience. The theological fecal matter hit the fan. Parker's home church of West Roxbury remained loyal, but ministers from many other pulpits, including and especially Unitarian, and local media attacked him for having denied biblical miracles and the literal authority of the Bible and Jesus. Many questioned Parker's Christianity. Nearly all the other pulpits in the Boston area were closed to him, and he lost friends. Parker reacted with grief and defiance. He remained unwilling to concede that his views placed him beyond the outer bounds of Unitarian liberalism. After this unwilling break with the Unitarian establishment, he spent 2 years, 1841 through 43, adjusting to the reality of his newly controversial and independent career and increasing his social activism on religious grounds. He began to see himself as a prophetic religious reformer. Among other things, he was a passionate and outspoken abolitionist. Parker was the only Unitarian minister, and even Unitarian Universalist minister, to be considered by his liberal colleagues to be excommunicated because of his theological views. To be censored and deprived on theological grounds of rights of church membership, and to be shunned and excluded from fellowship in his community of liberal Christians. This was a watershed moment in Unitarian Universalist history, an event marking a unique and historical and important change, of course, and one on which important future developments would depend. And I will return to this point shortly. But first, some context. If the early Unitarians were so liberal, how was it that they were ready to throw Parker out the door? To put this in better perspective, one needs to understand the evolution of the locus of religious authority in Christianity. We all know that the Christian Protestant movement, emphasis on Protestant, movement was a rebellion, a protest against the religious authority of the Roman Catholic papal authority, which dictated all things of what it meant to be religious and abused that authority to become very powerful and very rich. The likes of Luther and Calvin and others defied that authority, claiming that religious authority did not lie in the papacy, did not lie with the Pope and its corrupt hierarchy, but rather religious authority lay in the actual Word of God, in the Bible, and that adhering to the Bible as the sole source of religious authority was being true to God and to the Christian message. Now, we all know how that worked out. These numerous Christian sects became authoritarian in their own right, with each claiming to have the true interpretation of the Word of God. Religious authority became beholden to the doctrines and dogmas of the various sects and was enforced by church leaders to assure people were living by those doctrines and dogmas. Religious authority was exercised by those chosen to be in charge of enforcing those doctrines and dogmas, including, in some cases, being burned at the stake. But in response to this imposition of authority by a select few church leaders, another Protestant response emerged that was still beholden to the Word of God found in Scripture, but which found that same Scripture giving authority to the people of the churches, to the congregations of Christ. Congregational polity or governance was found among the early Baptists in New England, and more pertinent to our topic this morning, among the Puritans, or what came to be called the Congregationalists in New England. The early Congregationalists had written the Cambridge Platform of 1648 to describe the autonomy of the church, the congregations, and its association with others within society. It was written in response to Presbyterian criticism of how the church was to be governed. In time, this platform, the Cambridge Platform of 1648, became the basis of what became the religious constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So American Unitarians did not start out to be Unitarians. They were a bunch of established Congregationalists, especially ministers in Boston around Harvard, who wanted to reform the Congregationalist church from within. The Reverend William Ellery Channing is the best known among these reform-minded Congregational clergy and is often referred to as the father of American Unitarianism. The Unitarian movement was already gaining ground in Europe, most notably in England, which was questioning the Trinity, the deity of Christ, instead that he was just a man through whom God acted, and advocating for the use of human reason to interpret the Bible. So some New England Congregational clergy, the more conservative and traditionalists among the Congregationalists, accused those renegade Congregationalists as being nothing but a bunch of Unitarians. These traditionalist Congregationalists then took their books out of Harvard Divinity School library and established a new theological school, Andover Newton, which still exists as the premier Congregationalist theological school today. So, you can see why these early American Unitarians were considered to be liberal Christians in their day. And now, back to our watershed moment with Theodore Parker. If Parker had been essentially excommunicated for not being a good Unitarian Christian, Unitarianism would have simply gone on to be just another Christian denomination. Granted, it probably would have been a more liberal one, but still a denomination where the locus of authority was still within the Bible and within the body of the true believers. But Parker was not excommunicated, although he certainly experienced the shunning and ostracizing treatment that can come with such an act. Instead, Parker went on to preach in Boston, and went on to preach in Boston in 1845. and his supporters organized the 28th Congregational Society of Boston in December of that year, and they installed Parker as minister in January 1846. His congregation, which included Louisa May Alcott, William Lloyd Garrison, Julia Ward Howe, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, grew to 7,000 people. But even more important to the eventual evolution of Unitarianism and ultimately Unitarian Universalism, Parker's courageous act and his perseverance and the swelling influence of transcendentalism that had been fostered by Emerson, Fuller, and others, the religious floodgates were open. What it meant to be religious was no longer confined within the walls of the established Christian church. The locus of religious authority was not imprisoned within some ecclesiastical hierarchy or within some political fortress of doctrine and dogma or within any book or even within any body of people. Transcendentalism declared that religious authority lies within the individual. Only the individual can determine for him, herself, or theirself what it means to be religious. Only the individual can witness creation and determine for themselves what is truth, what is holy, what is divine, and what is not. The individual human being with his or her own power of reason and experience must determine what being religious is all about. What it means to be religious or not is the right and responsibility of each of you, of each of us as individuals. For you to choose ideas, beliefs, behaviors, practices, etc., that grow out of your own thinking and your own experiences. I think we can safely say that without these pioneers of true religious freedom, there would be no Unitarian Universalism today. The emergence of the new manifestation of which Fuller spoke, I believe, is reflected in our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles and our emerging Article 2 revision centered on love. As a living dynamo of challenge, guidance, and transformation grounded in justice, equity, and compassion. I feel we owe a great deal of the inspiration and inception of our principles and our allegiance to love to the influence of these great Unitarian transcendentalist thinkers. As Parker said, "Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love, its profession of faith divine living." I like to say that Unitarian Universalism has taken the Protestant movement to its ultimate conclusion, that the locus of religious authority lies within your conscience, within my conscience. It is there that what it means to be religious is defined. And yet collectively we are one humanity. As Emerson so eloquently put it, within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. Thank you. At this time, we're going to take up a collection, offertory, keeping in mind that is in our giving, not just financially, but in our time and our activities that the community is sustained and maintained to serve we, the members of this community, but also the larger community of which we are a part. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sally Garber, and it's my pleasure to represent the Caring Committee this morning. If you have a joy or concern that you'd like to share with the congregation, please take the time to give the office a call or let any member of the Caring Committee know. I have to tell you this morning, I have no announcements, no joys or concerns to add. But if you would like to light a candle for a joy or concern that you hold in your heart, please come forward now and light a candle. And as you do, please use both sides of the altar. Thank you.
Carry me, let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me in the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Find the stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
May our prayers be heard and our hearts be restored.
Let's all just take a moment to sit and close our eyes if it's comfortable with you, for you. And to be aware of your breath as it comes and goes. And being aware of our presence in this room, but our presence among each other and with each other. As hard as it is and often is for us to understand and comprehend our connection, not just with each other, but with all of creation, seems overwhelming and beyond us, but that is where we are. We are all of the oversoul, as Emerson put it. So let us just sit for a moment in quiet reflection and aware of our connection.
and in that connection be able to find a source of transformation to create as much love in the world as we can. That's our only hope. May I who live be true unto my being, one in my thoughts, my words, and every deed. I was born free, and ever a changing river is what I am, and neighbor, so are you. We have the power through laughter, love, and tears to face all fears and live forever free. Amen.
We have one new announcement today. Rather than having the board give a report here, Matt Livingston has said he will be available during the coffee hour after the service to present about information about the report. So you can talk to Matt. The announcements that are printed in your bulletin are all self-explanatory, but let me reiterate them. Our next service on June 2nd, will be a bridging ceremony for teens. And it's also Choir Sunday and the annual meeting. So please be sure to come so you can vote if you haven't already done so. And on a personal note, the Green Team is meeting today out on the corner here, wherever it is, and I hope some of you come and join us. Thank you.
Our closing song today is mostly by Tim Minchin. And if you've never listened to Tim Minchin, I highly recommend it because it's very poignant but also hysterical at times. And most recently, he wrote the Matilda, the musical, which was all the rage a few years ago. But most of his stuff is not like that, but it's equally clever. So I changed the words just a little bit because he's Australian and we are not. But this is a song sort of about those little Russian Matryoshka dolls, those little stacky dolls. And it starts with the earth and sort of zooms in to our own minds. And I'm going to do it the best I can because I have the lyrics here and the music here. This is my earth, and I live in it. It's 1/3 dirt and 2/3 water, and it rotates and revolves through space at rather an impressive pace, and never even messes up my hair. And here's the really weird thing. The force created by its spin is the force that keeps the chaos flooding in. This is my earth, and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect. This is my church. I switched this part. And I live in it. It's made of cracks and photographs.
We bought it from the Mormon folks who built it quite a while ago, whose sanctuary is where we drink our coffee. And the weirdest thing about it is it has locks to keep the baddies out, but they're often used to lock ourselves in. This is my church, and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect, but it's mine. This is my body, and I live in it. It's grown and feels a little older. It's changed a lot since it was new. It's done stuff it wasn't meant to do. I often like to fill it up with wine. And the weirdest thing about it is I spend so much time hating it, but it never says a bad word about me. This is my body, and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect. This is my brain, and I live in it. It's made of love and bad song lyrics. It's tucked away behind my eyes, where all my messed up thoughts can hide, 'cause God forbid I hurt somebody. And the weirdest thing about a mind is that every answer that you find is the basis of a brand new cliche. This is my brain, and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect. I'm not quite sure that I've worked out how to work it. It's not perfect, but it's mine.
I don't know. I think that was perfect. I just want to take the moment to thank you for the music this morning. I mean, to go from For Beauty of the Earth to Beethoven to It's Not Perfect or whatever, I just thank you. Let us all do leave here this morning knowing that it's what each of us contributes to this community that makes it strive, if not for perfection, but for wholeness, in the sense of being able to include what it means to be human and continue to strive to be in a world where love is what guides us, and love is what gives us hope, and love gives us the energy to move forward. So just a thank you to all of you for being a part of this larger community. Amen.
Well,